Okay, what we're looking at is the circumference of a circle. Now, we can look at the definition here. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. It is the perimeter of the circle. So it's all the way basically going around that circle. Now, we have two parts still of the circle here. First, we have the radius. The radius is the distance from the middle of the circle to its edge. So here's that middle of the circle. If we go here to that edge there, that's that radius. Then we also have the diameter. It's the distance across the circle going through the middle of the circle. So one side to the other, but also having to go through the middle, that's the diameter. If we kind of see, if I could kind of swing the radius up here, the radius is half the diameter. Those two are related. Now to find the circumference, to find this distance going all the way around, we have two different formulas. One is circumference equals pi times the diameter. Or I could say 2 times pi times the radius. And really the two are 2 times the radius is giving me that diameter because 2 of these radiuses is that diameter. So let's take a look here at these two examples where I'm trying to find that circumference. Now, in both these cases, they gave me the diameter. They gave me that going all the way across. So what I'm going to do is put, well, that's equal to pi times the diameter, which in this case is 42. Well, for these problems, I'm going to use 3.14 for pi times the 42. Now if I multiply straight across, just multiply those two numbers together, I get 131.88 meters. Now if it asks you to write to the nearest tenth, I would go 31.8 and it's a near 131 point. I look at this 8 here. I see the number behind it's an 8, so I'm going to round up 131.9 meters. Now if I look at this next one here, again, they gave me the diameter. So I'm going to go C is equal to pi times 11, because 11 is that diameter. So 3.14 times 11. And in this case, I get the circumference is equal to 34.54, and in this case, inches. Again, if I want to round to the nearest tenth, which is one place after the decimal, I have 34.4. I have to figure out is that a 5 or a 6. Well, I look behind it, it's a 4. So it says 5 or lower, that's going to stay at 5, so 34.5 inches. Now in these two, they give me the radius because they only give me half of it, so I'm going to use the other formula. So 2 times pi times 4. So that becomes 2 times 3.14 times the 4. Well, that becomes C, once I multiply those three numbers together, the circumference is equal to 25.12 yards. Which again, if I want to go to the nearest tenth, I look right here, 25 point, I look at this 1, I see behind it's a 2, so it's going to stay a 1, so it's 25.1 yards. Now the last one here, again, they gave me the radius. Because they gave me the radius, I'm going to go C is 2. Now I'm going to just put the 3.14 here for the pi, 3.14, and this time times 4.5. I multiply all that together, I get 28.26 millimeters. Well, again, right here, that's the nearest tenth. Well, since that's a 6, I need to round up. That's going to become 28.3 millimeters because it says 6 behind it. And that's the basic problems of in terms of finding that circumference. If I get the diameter, I just plug the number straight in and just multiply pi times the diameter. If I get the radius, I plug in the radius, but then I need to take that and multiply it by 2, really turning that into the diameter. Okay, now we're going to start bringing some of these problems and adding in a little of the story problem. Here it says a helicopter pad with a diameter of 15 yards. Find the circumference of the helicopter pad. So what I'm going to do here is I have my helicopter pad, which is that circle. They tell me this is sort of a circle. And they say the diameter going from one side to the other is 15 yards. So if I want to find the circumference, in this case, it's pi times the 15, because I was given the diameter. So 3.14 times the 15. And when I do this, it actually works out, and I get 47.1 yards. So I can say the circumference the helicopter pad is 47.1 yards. Now the next one is a little bit more complicated, because it says the crater here in Death Valley has a diameter of a little bit more than half a mile. If Yatisha walks it around its rim at a rate of 2 miles per hour, how long will it take her to walk all the way around the crater? Find your answer and to the nearest tenth. Use 3.14 for pi. Well, if we take a look, the crater, they're saying basically is a circle. They're saying going from one side to the other is half a mile. Well, I hate, just as much as probably many of you watching this, dealing with fractions. And since half a mile is pretty easy just to convert into that decimal, I'm going to make that as 0.5. So I'm going to say the circumference here is equal to 3.14, which is pi times 0.5. And so it tells me the circumference is 1.57 miles. But that's really only part of my problem, because it's not asking me how far did she walk, it's asking me how long will it take her. Well, it's telling me she's going 1.57 miles, but it takes her 2 miles per each hour. So I know it's going to take her a little bit less than an hour because she can do 2 miles in 1 hour. I'm going to use the formula for distance. Distance equals rate times time, or as sometimes they refer to it as a dirt problem. Well, they've given me the distance. That's what I found right here. The distance is 1.57 miles. The rate is how fast she's walking. They told me her rate was 2 miles per hour. Now, the one thing I don't know is the time, and that's at how long. Well, that's t. Well, I take this, divide by 2. And I get that t is equal to 0.785. Now again, they want this to the nearest tenth, which is one place after the decimal. So that becomes 0.8 hours. So I could say it takes her 0.8 hours. Now the last thing we're going to look at here is what if they only give us the circumference and want us to find the diameter? Well, here it's asking me what is the diameter. And for all of these, I'm really going to use the formula C equals pi times d. So I put in the circumference, which is 6.28, because they told me I have the circumference, is equal to 3.14 times that d. Well, this is a one-step equation. I need to divide by that 3.14. So I get d, I divide those up, that becomes 2. I need my unit, so that becomes 2 meters. So the diameter there is 2 meters. Now in the next one, I'm still going to use the same formula, but here I want the radius. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is just put 75.36 equal to 3.14 times the diameter. Divide those two out, 3.14. That crosses out, my diameter becomes 24 centimeters. But it didn't ask me for the diameter, it asked me for the radius. Well, if I think about the radius is really just that diameter, that 24 divided by 2, which is 12. So the radius is 12 centimeters. So I have one last example here of doing the same thing. Again, they give me the circumference. So the circumference is 25.12. Again, I'm going to go 3.14 times d. I take the 3.14, divide it on both sides. So d is equal to 8 feet. The 25.12 divided by that 3.14. So I can say the diameter is 8 feet by just doing that division problem there. Now, then it asks me what is the radius. Well, the radius, again, is just half the diameter. So for this example, the radius is 4 feet because that radius is just half of that diameter. So that gives you a few pointers and things in dealing with circumference when either you're given the radius, the diameter, or if they actually even just give you the circumference. That gives you a head start in completing some of the work that you need to do.